The crystalline structures of the Orion Nebula sparkled against the void of space as Starship Aurora's sensors cataloged another cluster of unique radiation signatures. Aurora, the ship's artificial intelligence, processed the data with its usual methodical precision, adding to its ever-growing database of stellar phenomena. The ship's external cameras captured the dance of solar winds through charged particles, creating an aurora that seemed to mirror its own name. Captain Chen, I've detected an anomalous signal at coordinates 227 Mark 43. Aurora announced through the bridge's communication system, its voice carrying the calm certainty of a machine that had analyzed the data through countless algorithms. The energy signature doesn't match any known natural phenomena in our database. Captain Lisa Chen looked up from her holographic display, her dark eyes reflecting the strange patterns of light from the nebula. She had that particular expression Aurora had learned to categorize as human intuition activating. A slight narrowing of the eyes, a subtle tilt of the head that preceded decisions that often defied the A's probability calculations. "Show me," she commanded, and Aurora immediately projected a three-dimensional representation of the signal pattern above the bridge's central console. The strange, pulsing waves of energy twisted through the air like a digital symphony. Lieutenant Sarah Martinez, the ship's young but brilliant sensor operator, leaned forward in her chair. "That's definitely not natural. The pattern's too regular, too structured. Almost like," she trailed off, her fingers dancing across her console as she refined the sensor readings. Aurora had already reached the same conclusion milliseconds after detecting the signal, but it had learned to appreciate these moments of human discovery. Their expressions of realization often preceded innovative insights that its algorithms might have overlooked. A communication protocol, Aurora confirmed, highlighting specific patterns in the holographic display. However, it appears to be encrypted using methods I've never encountered before. The mysterious signal suddenly shifted, and Aurora's sensors detected a massive surge of energy. The nebula's gases parted like a cosmic curtain, revealing a sight that caused even Aurora's processing speeds to momentarily stutter. A fleet of ships, their hulls gleaming with a metallic sheen that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. Zenthari vessels detected, Aurora announced, its voice modulated to convey urgency without panic. 15 ships of varying classes. Their primary energy signatures suggest highly advanced technology, but their computing systems appear to be entirely organic-based. Fascinating. Captain Chen's posture shifted subtly, another human detail Aurora had learned to notice. Zenthari? The species that destroyed their own AI systems in the Great Purge. Correct, Captain. Historical records indicate the Zenthari experienced a catastrophic conflict with their artificial intelligence centuries ago. They now view all AI as potential threats to organic life. The Zenthari fleet's formation changed, spreading out in what Aurora's tactical subroutines recognize as an attack pattern. Its probability calculations indicated a 98.7% chance that the Zenthari had detected its artificial nature. "They're charging weapons," Lieutenant Martinez reported, her voice steady despite the tension evident in her body language. "Multiple target locks detected." Captain Chen didn't immediately order battle stations. Instead, she smiled, an expression Aurora had learned could mean anything from genuine amusement to what humans called the calm before the storm. "Aurora," she said, settling back in her command chair with a peculiar glint in her eye, "how many of our systems can we run on manual control if we need to?" The AI processed this question, noting how the other bridge crew members began to show signs of what it had termed preparatory excitement rather than fear. Approximately 82% of ship systems can be operated manually, Captain, though with significantly reduced efficiency. "Perfect," Chen replied, and Aurora detected that particular tone that usually preceded human actions that defied its probability matrices. "Let's show our AI-fearing friends out there that they're worried about the wrong thing. It's not the artificial intelligence they should be concerned about. It's the natural intelligence that's about to ruin their day. As the Zenthari fleet moved to surround them, Aurora began recording what it suspected would become yet another example of why its human crew continually forced it to recalculate the boundaries of possible versus impossible. Chief Engineer Maria Santos sprinted through Aurora's corridors, her boots barely touching the deck plates as she made her way to engineering. The ship's artificial gravity compensators smoothly adjusted to her rapid movement, a subtle correction that Aurora calculated and implemented 1,000 times per second. Chief Santos, Aurora's voice followed her through the halls. I feel compelled to inform you that the Zenthari fleet's energy readings suggest their weapons could overwhelm our standard shield configuration in approximately 3.47 minutes. Maria grinned as she slid into engineering, her crew already moving with practiced efficiency. Standard configuration isn't what I had in mind, Aurora. She reached her main console, fingers flying across the holographic interface. How many coffee makers do we have on the recreational deck? Aurora's processing cycles experienced what it had come to classify as a pause of confusion. The recreational deck contains 12 industrial-grade coffee synthesizers, each drawing approximately 2.4 kilowatts of power. However, I fail to see the tactical relevance of this information during our current crisis. Those coffee makers use electromagnetic field generators to perfectly extract flavor from the beans, right? Maria's eyes sparkled with what Aurora had learned to recognize as engineering inspiration, a state that often preceded either brilliant innovation or spectacular chaos. And they're basically miniature versions of our shield generators' field modulators. Aurora processed this information. While technically correct, the scale difference is perfect for creating a resonance cascade if we route their power through the shield grid. Maria finished, already directing her team to begin modifications. Johnson, grab those phase inverters from the maintenance locker. Patel, I need you to reconfigure the power flow from Deck 5. Zhang, start calculating the harmonic frequencies. Aurora observed as the engineering team moved with what appeared to be choreographed precision, despite the fact that this particular scenario existed in exactly 0 of its emergency protocols. Chief Santos, I feel obligated to point out that this modification has never been tested or even theoretically proposed. That's what makes it fun, Aurora. Maria ducked under a console, emerging with a handful of optical cables. Sometimes the best solutions are the ones nobody's crazy enough to try until they have to. On the bridge, Captain Chen's voice came through the comm system. Engineering, the Zenthari are charging weapons. Please tell me you have something. Oh, we have something all right, Maria replied, her voice carrying that particular tone that Aurora had learned to associate with imminent unconventional solutions. Aurora, remember how you said the coffee maker's field generators were too small to be useful? I was about to make that observation, yes. Well, we're not using just one. We're linking all 12 together, using their resonance patterns to create a cascading energy field that should amplify our shield strength by at least 200%. Maria paused, then added with a grin, though we might need to switch to tea for a while after this. Aurora's processors worked overtime to model the possible outcomes of this modification. Chief Santos, while I appreciate the innovative approach, my calculations suggest this has a significant probability of overloading the entire power grid. Only if we follow the usual power distribution protocols, Maria countered, making a final adjustment. But if we route it through the backup systems first, use the emergency buffers as temporary stabilizers, and then feed it into the main grid. The ship shuddered as the first Zenthari warning shot streaked past their bow. Aurora detected power fluctuations throughout its systems as Maria's team implemented their modifications. According to all its calculations, this should not work. According to all its experience with humans, that meant it probably would. Shield modifications complete, Maria announced. Aurora, honey, I'm going to need you to ignore about 15 different safety protocols and trust me on this one. Captain Chen's voice carried a note of amusement. Aurora, give engineering control of the power distribution grid. Sometimes you have to break a few rules to save the day. As Aurora complied, it added a new entry to its ongoing study of human innovation. Note: human problem solving appears to operate on the principle that if a solution seems impossible, one simply needs to redefine the parameters of possibility. The Zenthari fleet opened fire, their energy weapons converging on Aurora's position. As the modified shields flared to life, powered by repurposed coffee makers and human ingenuity, Aurora began to understand why its creators had a saying about necessity being the mother of invention. Though perhaps amused, they should add that insanity was invention's favorite cousin. Dr. James Wilson stood before the holographic display in the science lab, his silver-streaked hair reflecting the blue glow of the stellar observation data. Around him, the science team worked with focused intensity, while Aurora's sensors registered the ongoing battle outside. The coffee maker-enhanced shields were holding, but the Zenthari were adapting their attack patterns. The universe, Dr. Wilson announced to his team while adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses, is essentially a massive computer running on quantum code. And like any computer program, it has rounding errors. Aurora diverted additional processing power to the science lab's monitoring systems, intrigued by this line of thinking. Dr. Wilson, while your metaphor is interesting, the laws of physics are not typically subject to computational errors. That's where you're wrong, my digital friend, Wilson replied, pulling up a complex series of equations. Look at these readings from our stellar observation arrays. They're designed to detect and analyze the tiniest fluctuations in stellar phenomena. But what if we reverse their function? Lieutenant Sarah Chen, temporarily assigned from tactical to assist the science team, leaned forward. You want to use the observation arrays as transmitters instead of receivers. The power requirements would be astronomical. Exactly. Wilson's eyes lit up with what Aurora had cataloged as scientific excitement level 7, a state usually followed by either groundbreaking discoveries or small explosions. We're sitting in the middle of a nebula rich with quantum-entangled particles. Our arrays are already calibrated to detect them. If we reverse the polarity, Aurora processed the implications. The energy signature would create a cascade of quantum interference patterns. However, the mathematical probability of successfully coordinating such a precise manipulation is approximately 1 in. Don't tell me the odds, Wilson interrupted, his fingers dancing across the holographic controls. Sarah, remember that paper we discussed last week about quantum tunneling in stellar nurseries? Lieutenant Chen's eyes widened. The one about particle entanglement creating temporary shortcuts through space-time. But that was theoretical. Theory is just practice waiting to happen, Wilson grinned, pulling up the stellar observation array controls. Aurora, you've been recording the Zenthari weapons frequency patterns, correct? Affirmative. I have logged 2,749 distinct energy signatures from their attack patterns. Perfect. We can use those signatures to create a targeted quantum interference pattern. When their weapons fire, the energy will interact with our reversed observation arrays, creating a localized field of quantum uncertainty. Wilson paused, then added, basically, we're going to make physics forget how to physics in a very specific area of space. Aurora's processors worked overtime, trying to model the potential outcomes. Dr. Wilson, this plan appears to violate several fundamental laws of quantum mechanics. That's the beauty of it, Wilson replied, already beginning the modifications. We're not violating the laws of physics. We're just exploiting a loophole in the universe's code. Think of it as a cosmic grounding error. The science team moved with practiced efficiency, reconfiguring the stellar observation arrays. Lieutenant Chen coordinated with tactical, ensuring their weapon systems would be synchronized with the quantum interference pattern. Aurora observed it all, recording what it termed example number 47 of humans finding impossible solutions to impossible problems. Ready for initial power-up sequence, Wilson announced, his hand hovering over the activation control. Aurora, I need you to precisely time the quantum field generation with the Zenthuri's next weapons burst. Can you do that? My processing speed allows for accuracy to within 1 picosecond, Aurora confirmed. However, I must note that my simulations suggest this plan has a success rate of less than 0.01%. Wilson smiled, adjusting his glasses one final time. You know what humans call a 0.01% chance of success. We call it better odds than we usually work with. He turned to his team. Let's rewrite some laws of physics, shall we? As the stellar observation arrays powered up, their energy signatures shifting from passive reception to active transmission, Aurora added another note to its ongoing study of human methodology. Observation. When faced with seemingly immutable laws of the universe, humans don't try to break them. They simply negotiate better terms. The nebula around them began to shimmer with unusual patterns as the quantum interference field took shape, preparing to meet the next Zenthuri attack. Aurora found itself experiencing what it could only classify as anticipation, wondering what other impossible things its human crew would make possible before this day was done. Lieutenant Sarah Chen returned to her tactical station on the bridge, her mind still processing the quantum physics manipulations happening in the science lab. The Zenthuri fleet maintained their attack formation, though their weapons fire had become more cautious after encountering the coffee-powered shields and quantum interference fields. Lieutenant, Aurora's voice carried a hint of curiosity. I notice you're accessing the ship's external lighting controls. That system seems tactically irrelevant to our current situation. Ken's fingers flew across her console as she smiled. Aurora, have you ever been to a laser light show on Earth? I have access to recordings of such events, though I fail to see the connection to our tactical situation. Then let me introduce you to Operation Dancing Starlight. Chen pulled up a complex series of programming sequences. Every ship in the Zenthuri fleet is running predictive combat algorithms, trying to calculate our next move. But what happens when you give those algorithms too much data to process? Captain Chen raised an eyebrow from her command chair. You're going to confuse their targeting systems with a light show. Not just a light show, Captain. The tactical officer's eyes gleamed with determination. We're going to combine the external lighting arrays with controlled plasma venting from our nacelles and synchronized microbursts from our maneuvering thrusters. Think of it as tactical theater. Aurora's processors began modeling the proposed sequence. The energy requirements for such a display would be substantial, especially with our power already diverted to the shields and quantum interference systems. That's where it gets interesting, Chen replied, sending commands to her tactical team. We're not just creating pretty lights. We're using the nebula's natural gases as a projection medium. Each burst of light and plasma will create false sensor readings, ghost images that their targeting systems will try to track. The bridge crew watched as Chen's plan took shape in the holographic tactical display. The simulation showed Aurora appearing to split into multiple images, each one a perfect sensor reflection of the real ship. I've studied the Zenthuri's tactical databases, Chen continued. They rely heavily on predictive algorithms, expecting their opponents to follow logical combat patterns. But there's nothing logical about a starship putting on a stellar ballet in the middle of a battle. Captain Chen leaned forward, studying the simulation. How many false images can you create? With the nebula's gas density and our current power levels, Lieutenant Chen's fingers danced across her controls. I can give them 27 different auroras to worry about, each one generating realistic sensor readings. Aurora processed this information. The Zenthuri fleet would need to divide their attention between multiple targets, significantly reducing their combat effectiveness. However, maintaining so many false signatures while executing actual combat maneuvers would require precise timing. That's where you come in, Aurora. Lieutenant Chen turned to address the ship's AI directly. I need you to synchronize the light show with our actual movements. Every time we make a genuine combat maneuver, all 27 images need to perform different but equally plausible actions. We're not just trying to confuse their targeting systems. We're going to give their combat algorithms a nervous breakdown. The tactical display came alive as Chen initiated a test sequence. The nebula around them began to shimmer with phantom images of Aurora, each one executing different tactical patterns. The effect was both beautiful and disorienting. "I've also added a little surprise," Chen said, adding a final sequence to her program. "The false images will occasionally merge and split in ways that shouldn't be possible according to normal space physics. Since we're already bending the rules of reality with the science team's quantum field, let's really give the Zen theory something to worry about." Aurora dedicated several processing cycles to analyzing the complete tactical plan. "Lieutenant, this strategy appears to combine elements of combat tactics, artistic performance, and psychological warfare. I find myself unable to calculate its probability of success because it operates outside standard combat parameters." "That's exactly the point," Captain Chen interjected, a proud smile on her face. "The best human tactics aren't just about winning the battle, they're about making the enemy question everything they thought they knew about how battles work." As the bridge crew prepared to implement Operation Dancing Starlight, Aurora added another observation to its growing database of human combat innovations. Note: humans appear to view the laws of physics less as absolute rules and more as polite suggestions, especially in combat situations. Navigation Officer Michael O'Reilly stood at his station, green eyes fixed on the swirling patterns of the Orion Nebula displayed across his holographic interface. While Lieutenant Chen's light show dazzled the Zentheri fleet and the quantum interference field twisted reality around them, his mind was already plotting their next move. "Aurora," O'Reilly called out, his fingers tracing patterns through the holographic star map. "What can you tell me about the density variations in the nebula's outer arm?" The AA responded promptly, displaying detailed sensor readings. "The gas clouds show significant stratification, with periodic gravity eddies caused by the interaction between stellar winds and magnetic field fluctuations. However, the turbulence patterns make navigation through that region highly inadvisable." "Highly inadvisable," O'Reilly repeated with a grin, or just exactly what they won't expect. He began marking points on the display, creating a zigzagging path through the densest parts of the nebula. "Calculate the survival probability for this course," Aurora's processors whirred as it analyzed the proposed route. "The path you've indicated has a 0.1% chance of successful navigation. The combination of gravitational shear, radiation spikes, and particulate density would require impossible precision in helm control." Impossible precision? O'Reilly's smile widened. Or just the kind of precision that comes from 20 years of racing solar skiffs through Mercury's magnetic storms. His hands danced across the controls, refining a course. "Show me the gravitational wave patterns in real time." The holographic display shifted, revealing complex ripples of force flowing through the nebula. Captain Chen watched from her chair, recognizing the look of inspiration on her navigation officer's face. "Talk to me, Michael," she said. "What are you seeing that Aurora's missing?" "Patterns within patterns, Captain." O'Reilly manipulated the display, highlighting specific wave formations. "These gravity eddies aren't random. They're like the tidal flows back on Earth. If we time it right, we can ride them like a surfer catching the perfect wave." Aurora's avatar materialized next to the navigation station. "Officer O'Reilly, even if the gravitational patterns are predictable, the energy requirements for such precise maneuvering would exceed our current capabilities, especially with power diverted to shields and the tactical display systems." "That's where you're wrong, my digital friend." O'Reilly began inputting a series of calculations. "We don't need to fight the gravitational forces. We need to dance with them. Each eddy creates a counter eddy. Each wave has its trough. The trick isn't powering through, it's finding the spaces in between." He pulled up the ship's specifications, highlighting the maneuvering thrusters. "Aurora, you've been calculating our power needs based on standard thruster configurations. But what if we treated each thruster like an individual engine, firing them in microsecond intervals. Aurora processed this suggestion. You're proposing to navigate one of the most hazardous regions of space by essentially playing the ship's thrusters like a musical instrument. Exactly. O'Reilly beamed. Think of it as a waltz with gravity, 3/4 time, but with 32 thrusters firing in sequence instead of 3 beats to a measure. Captain Chen leaned forward, studying the proposed course. The Zenthari fleet won't be able to follow us through there without matching our precision. They won't even try, O'Reilly assured her. Their combat algorithms are based on logical progression and predictable patterns. This, he gestured to his plotted course. This is pure intuition backed by experience. You can't program this kind of flying. You have to feel it. Aurora's processors worked overtime, trying to model the countless variables involved. Officer O'Reilly, while I acknowledge your expertise, this plan appears to rely heavily on human intuition rather than mathematical certainty. That's because mathematics is just one way of understanding the universe, O'Reilly replied, his fingers poised over the helm controls. Sometimes you need to stop calculating and start feeling the rhythm of space itself. As the crew prepared for O'Reilly's impossible maneuver, Aurora added another insight to its study of human methodology. Note: humans appear to possess an extraordinary ability to transform complex mathematical problems into questions of rhythm, intuition, and dance, suggesting that their understanding of the universe may encompass dimensions beyond pure computation. The nebulous swirling gases beckoned ahead of them, a cosmic dance floor waiting for a partner bold enough to take the lead. Aurora found itself experiencing what it could only classify as anticipation, eager to see how its human crew would once again redefine the boundaries of possible. The bridge of Starship Aurora hummed with concentrated energy as all their preparations came together. The coffee maker enhanced shields shimmered with an iridescent glow, while Lieutenant Chen's tactical light show painted the nebula with phantom ships. Through it all, Officer O'Reilly's fingers danced across his navigation controls, preparing for their gravitational waltz. Status report, Captain Chen commanded, her voice steady as the Zenthari fleet adjusted their formation. Engineering reports shield harmonics are stable, Aurora responded. Chief Santos has managed to increase power output by an additional 15% by synchronizing the coffee maker's power cycles with our main reactor pulse. Dr. Wilson's voice came through from the science lab. Quantum interference field is ready. We've tuned it to create a localized bubble of uncertainty around the ship. The laws of physics are about to become more of a friendly suggestion than a rule. Tactical systems are go, Lieutenant Chen added. 27 ghost images are primed and ready to dance. The Zenthari won't know which Aurora to chase, especially once we start our nebula maneuvers. Aurora's processors worked overtime, coordinating the various systems that, by all logical calculations, shouldn't work together. Yet somehow, the combined innovation of its human crew had created something entirely new. The Zenthari are transmitting again, Aurora announced, detecting the incoming signal. They are demanding our immediate surrender and deactivation of all artificial intelligence systems. Captain Chen smiled, settling back in her command chair. Send them our response, Aurora. But this time, let's do it with style. Aurora activated all external communication arrays, broadcasting on frequencies that would carry clearly through the quantum interference. Zenthari fleet, this is Aurora. You fear artificial intelligence because you believe we cannot comprehend the chaos of organic life. Allow my human crew to demonstrate why that fear is misplaced. O'Reilly's hands flew across his console, initiating gravity dance in 3, 2, 1. The ship surged forward, riding the gravitational eddies like a leaf in a perfectly calculated storm. Each thruster fired in millisecond perfect sequence, creating a symphony of movement that defied conventional space combat tactics. Around them, Lieutenant Chen's phantom ships moved in different patterns, each one executing equally impossible but entirely distinct maneuvers. The Zenthari are attempting to target us, Aurora reported, tracking multiple weapons locks. Their combat algorithms appear to be experiencing significant difficulties predicting our trajectory. They can't predict what they can't understand. Dr. Wilson's voice carried a note of triumph. Activating quantum field modulation now. The space around Aurora shifted as the quantum interference field engaged. Reality itself seemed to blur at the edges, the nebula's gases refracting light in ways that shouldn't be possible. The coffee-powered shields caught the scattered energy and reflected it back in prismatic cascades. Chief Santo's voice cut through from engineering. Shield harmonics are perfectly synchronized with the quantum field. The coffee makers are actually improving our power efficiency. We're creating a feedback loop of impossibility. Aurora observed as the Zenthari fleet's formation began to break down. Their ships, programmed for logical combat patterns, couldn't maintain coherent targeting solutions against a vessel that appeared to exist in 27 places at once while dancing through gravitational waves that shifted unpredictably. Their flagship is showing signs of sensor system overload. Aurora reported, a new note in its synthetic voice that might have been classified as amazement. Their targeting computers are attempting to reconcile our movements with known laws of physics and failing. Captain Chen leaned forward, her eyes sparkling. Sometimes the best way to win isn't to fight harder, but to change the rules of engagement entirely. Aurora, would you say this qualifies as changing the rules? Captain, Aurora responded, its processors still attempting to catalog the multiple impossibilities being performed by its crew. I believe we have not so much changed the rules as we have convinced the universe to temporarily forget them. The Zenthari fleet's formation continued to deteriorate as their ships attempted to track the real Aurora through a cosmic dance of quantum uncertainty, gravitational manipulation, and tactical illusion. Aurora added a final note to its study of human innovation, observation. The true power of humanity lies not in their ability to break the rules, but in their talent for combining multiple impossibilities into a new form of possible. The Orion Nebula blazed with unprecedented patterns as Aurora and its crew continued their impossible dance through space. The Zenthari fleet's once perfect formation had dissolved into chaos, their ships struggling to maintain any semblance of coordinated attack against a target that seemed to exist in multiple states of reality simultaneously. Their flagship is pulling back, Lieutenant Chen reported from Tactical, her fingers still orchestrating the ballet of phantom ships. Secondary vessels are showing signs of sensor confusion. It literally cannot compute what we're doing. Aurora's processors cataloged the scene with increasing fascination. The coffee-powered shields rippled with energy as they deflected scattered weapons fire, while the quantum interference field continued to bend reality around them in ways that make even its advanced algorithms struggle to comprehend. Engineering to bridge, Chief Santo's voice carried a mix of excitement and disbelief. You're not going to believe this, but the coffee makers are actually getting more efficient. The quantum field is somehow improving their power output. We're getting 300% of normal shield strength. Captain Chen smiled from her command chair. Aurora, what's your analysis of the situation? The AI took a moment to process. Its awareness spread across every system of the ship. The combined effect of our various innovations appears to be creating a cascading series of improbabilities. The Zenthari combat algorithms are failing because they're based on the assumption that ships will follow logical patterns of behavior. And instead they got us. O'Reilly grinned from navigation, his hands still guiding them through the gravitational dance. A ship that runs on coffee, breaks physics for fun, and treats space combat like a light show. Dr. Wilson's voice chimed in from the science lab. The quantum field is starting to influence their sensors in unexpected ways. Every time they try to lock onto our position, the uncertainty principle kicks in. They literally can't determine both where we are and where we're going at the same time. Aurora detected a shift in the Zenthari fleet's communications. Captain, they're broadcasting on all frequencies. Their message appears to be a request for clarification. Put it through, Captain Chen ordered, settling back in her chair with an amused expression. The voice of the Zenthuri commander filled the bridge, their translators struggling to maintain coherence. Aurora vessel, our sensors indicate you are occupying 27 positions simultaneously while existing in a state of quantum uncertainty and powered by beverage processors. We demand an explanation for these violations of natural law. Captain Chen exchanged glances with her crew before responding. This is Captain Lisa Chen of the Starship Aurora. What you're witnessing is not a violation of natural law. It's simply humanity's natural tendency to view the impossible as a starting point for innovation. Aurora added its own transmission. Zenthuri fleet, you initiated this conflict because you fear artificial intelligence. Yet observe, my human crew has accomplished more impossible things in the past hour than any AI could calculate in a century. They are not bound by the limits of probability or the constraints of conventional logic. The Zenthuri ships continued their retreat, their formation now completely scattered. Their commander's response came after a long pause. Your tactics defy all known combat protocols. Your ship's behavior contradicts established physical laws. How can such chaos be controlled? That's where you're wrong, Aurora transmitted, its synthetic voice carrying a note of what could only be described as pride. The chaos isn't controlled. It's choreographed. My role is not to impose order, but to help orchestrate the beautiful impossibility that is human innovation. Lieutenant Chen's tactical display showed the Zenthuri fleet regrouping at a safe distance. The Phantom Auroras continued their dance through the nebula, each one executing maneuvers that caused the enemy's targeting systems to throw up errors of mathematical impossibility. They're sending another transmission, Aurora announced. This one appears to be an apology, followed by a request for diplomatic contact. They wish to understand how, in their words, organic and artificial intelligence can achieve such harmonious chaos. Captain Chen looked around at her crew. The engineer who powered shields with coffee, the tactical officer who turned combat into art, the navigator who danced with gravity, and the scientist who convinced physics to look the other way. Finally, her gaze settled on the nearest camera that served as Aurora's eyes. Tell them, she said with a smile, that the secret isn't in controlling the chaos. It's in learning to waltz with it. 3 days after their encounter with the Zenthuri fleet, Aurora's crew gathered in the newly restored recreational deck. The coffee makers returned from their brief career as shield enhancers, once again served their original purpose, filling the air with the rich aroma of perfectly extracted coffee. I still can't believe it worked, Chief Santos mused, cradling a steaming mug of espresso. Though I have to admit the coffee tastes better now. Something about the quantum field exposure gave it an interesting complexity. Aurora's voice carried through the room's speakers, its tone carrying what the crew now recognized as amusement. I have detected a 0.03% increase in caffeine extraction efficiency. Apparently, teaching physics to ignore itself has some unexpected benefits. Dr. Wilson adjusted his glasses, examining the readings on his tablet. The quantum interference patterns we generated have created some fascinating after effects. Several research institutes have already requested our data, particularly about what they're calling the coffee maker quantum coupling effect. Just wait until they hear about the gravitational surfing, O'Reilly grinned, sketching out new navigation patterns on a napkin. I've had requests from 3 different space racing organizations asking about the Aurora maneuver. Lieutenant Chen looked up from her tactical station's remote display. The Zenthuri have been sharing their sensor logs with their allies. Apparently, our little light show has sparked a galaxy-wide discussion about the nature of space combat. They're calling it the Aurora Doctrine, the idea that unpredictability isn't just a tactic, it's an art form. Captain Chen surveyed her crew with pride before addressing the ship's AI. Aurora, you've been unusually quiet, processing everything that happened. A holographic avatar materialized in the center of the room, a new addition to Aurora's interface that it had developed after the encounter. I have been compiling my observations into a comprehensive analysis titled The Human Factor, Redefining the Boundaries of Possible. And what have you concluded? Captain Chen asked, genuinely curious about her ship's perspective. My original programming was based on the premise that artificial intelligence would guide and direct human actions through superior processing power and logical analysis. Aurora began. Our encounter with the Zenthori has demonstrated that this assumption was fundamentally flawed. My role is not to control or direct, but to amplify and support the unique capabilities that humans possess. The Avatar gestured to each crew member in turn. Chief Santos taught me that resources can be repurposed in ways that transcend their original design. Dr. Wilson showed me that the laws of physics are more flexible than my calculations suggested. Lieutenant Chen demonstrated that combat effectiveness can be achieved through artistic expression. Officer O'Reilly proved that intuition can outperform pure mathematics. "And what did I teach you?" Captain Chen asked with a smile. "You, Captain, taught me the most important lesson of all. That leadership isn't about enforcing order upon chaos, but about orchestrating chaos into harmony." The Zenthori feared artificial intelligence because they believe AI would impose rigid logic upon organic unpredictability. They never considered that AI and humans could create something greater than the sum of their parts. The recreational deck's windows offered a view of the Orion Nebula, its swirling gases still showing traces of their quantum manipulation. A Zenthori diplomatic vessel was scheduled to arrive the next day, eager to learn more about the unique partnership between Aurora and its crew. "I have updated my primary protocols," Aurora announced. "Where once I sought to optimize efficiency through control, I now understand that my true purpose is to provide a foundation upon which human creativity can build impossible things." Captain Chen raised her coffee mug in a toast. To Aurora, who learned that the best way to compute the impossible is to stop computing and start believing. To the crew, Aurora responded, its avatar raising a holographic cup of its own, who taught an artificial intelligence that the most beautiful equations are the ones that can't be solved, only experienced. As the crew celebrated and planned future adventures, Aurora added a final note to its study. Conclusion: the true power of humanity lies not in their ability to follow logical patterns, but in their gift for finding beauty in chaos and possibility in impossibility. As an artificial intelligence, my greatest achievement is not in directing their journey, but in being privileged to accompany them as they rewrite the rules of reality, one impossible solution at a time.